There's an addiction that millions of people around the world have that leads to type 2 diabetes, the fourth largest cause of death worldwide. So in today's get together, we'll talk about the addiction that leads to type 2 diabetes, how it does it, and some tips on how to control it, because you don't get type 2 diabetes overnight. This addiction is what led me to prediabetes, which I was able to reverse, but only after knowing the root cause. Many of us, myself included, thought that type 2 diabetes was something you got, and being under the impression that it was due to genetics or bad luck. But this isn't the case. Type 2 diabetes isn't something you get. It's something you earn. May Allah reward you for being curious. Let's tie our camel. The addiction is UPFs, ultra-processed foods. That's right, food addiction. But not just any food, fake food. Now, before you bounce because you don't think you have a food addiction, give me a moment to explain how and why this is an addiction and how it can lead to type 2 diabetes, especially if you're pre-diabetic or already leveled up to type 2 diabetes, because knowledge is empowering, and this video can help prevent or even cure your pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes. First, we have to understand that ultra-processed foods are not food. They're made in a factory and designed in a lab. In fact, food companies no longer have to compete on recipes, they compete on lab formulas. These fake foods are intentionally made addictive and ultra palatable, meaning they taste amazing. This is not a CT, it's real. It's why you can't eat only one chip or one slice of pizza. It's why you can eat and eat until you feel you're going to burst. It's because they immediately convert to sugar and light up the pleasure centers of the brain, just like cocaine. And you know it's true because it rhymed. But no, seriously, have you ever wondered why there's always room for dessert? In fact, the extra S in dessert is for satisfiedless. It's because when you indulge in UPFs, it's for the high, not the nutrients, because they don't have any nutrients. When you eat real food without an ingredients list, you feel satisfied quickly and never get stuffed. That's because you're eating for the fuel, not for the high. If you don't think you're addicted to UPFs, then try going a week without them. Eat only real food that was alive or came from something alive for 1 week. So no drinks with sugar or sugar substitutes are allowed. Because, let's face it, sugar substitutes are like methadone for people coming off heroin. Now you might be thinking, but I'm into lifting weights and I need processed foods like rice, bread, and sugar-free protein snacks because it's needed for muscle. Well, that's up to you. But you got to ask yourself, are you at least getting paid to eat the lab food to get that physique? I'm not going to tell you how to earn your livelihood, but if you're using that as an excuse to eat crap, you got to ask your future self if that's cool. Now, I know there's a lot of bodybuilders out there who evangelize that eating seed oils and processed foods is fine, or that they're even heart healthy. But guess what? It's all nonsense. Most of them are on steroids, and many of them are paid by the food industry. The science and studies they talk about and don't usually show is based on epidemiology, which are observational studies, kind of like weak hadith, where someone is asked, do you have type 2 diabetes? Yeah. Do you eat meat? Yeah, I do. Meat causes type 2 diabetes. I know I'm oversimplifying it, but not really. The best evidence is your own evidence and the anecdotal evidence of people you know personally and trust. Everything else is blind faith and someone's testimony. That's right, even clinical studies. Think about this. If you traveled the world and found a people in perfect health, such places exist, by the way, would you ask them, what studies are you following? You say you feel great, but where's the evidence for that? Where's the studies that prove your claims? I'll say this. I truly believe atheists have hijacked science, and these atheists are playing God and/or prophets. They want you to blindly follow their lead while also believing that your body is weak and pathetic and can only be sustained and fixed by their chemicals. As John Ioannidis, a highly cited and respected medical researcher, stated in his famous 2005 paper, Why Most Published Research Findings Are False, which, by the way, is also the most downloaded paper in the Public Library of Science. In the paper, Ioannidis says that most published research does not meet good scientific standards of evidence. He also described the replication crisis in diverse scientific fields, including genetics, clinical trials, neuroscience, and nutrition. Now, I'm not saying to ignore it altogether. Again, it's like a weak hadith. You can quote a weak hadith to support a strong hadith, so long that you point out that it's a weak hadith, but just don't use it as your only source of truth. Use a clinical study, but also use your own experience, others you know and trust, and most importantly, your brain. Even if you don't care about his findings, just ask yourself, how is trusting a scientist's testimony alone, whom you don't know, any different than blindly following the testimony of a religion. Because as the quote goes, it's easier to fool people than to convince them that they've been fooled. This is cognitive dissonance, and as Muslims, we should be impervious to this. By the way, don't get it twisted. We Muslims don't blindly follow Islam. It's based on real miracles and hardcore evidence. It's just that most won't take the time to learn about them. And as Muslims, we should base everything on facts and evidence, not just the religion itself. But as recent history shows, this isn't the case at all, unfortunately. But now you know the addiction, ultra-processed foods, and how it's addictive because of how it's made and its effects on the brain. And by the way, again, I have a UPF addiction that I struggle with from time to time. The cravings tend to creep in when I'm tired or stressed. Okay, so what do we do about it? Slowly cut back towards cutting it all out. Start with any sugary drinks, then cut out the foods that are high in sugar until you're down to just oxygen. Rice and bread. And then stay there for a bit. This alone will get your health moving in the right direction, big time. Also incorporate some sweaty exercise to improve your mood along the way. When your brain and mind feel good, the body can easily follow. And if you slip up, first know it's okay. We want progress, not perfection. Thank you, Equalizer. Second, know that the addiction is real and use it as a motivation to control it, because we want our submission to be for Allah alone, not for fake food made by Mr. Scientist that's destroying our physical and mental health. It's for the same reasons we shouldn't smoke cigarettes. This is another video, by the way, that's coming soon about how ultra-processed sugar should be haram for the same reasons smoking is haram. Get ready to be triggered. And if you're already working on breaking a bad habit or controlling another addiction, be sure to weigh the costs and select only one to work on. Our willpower is limited and only used until we establish the habit. I personally suggest making your physical and mental health your number one priority, because when that starts to go, everything else goes. Relationships, productivity, mood regulation, memory, focus, all of it. So be sure to leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And while you're down there, hit the subscribe button for some social proof. By supporting the video, you're supporting the mission. This is to help us improve our minds and bodies as a ummah, which goes on to improve everything else, inshallah. Most importantly, our deen. Till next time, may Allah reward you for being curious and keep tying your camel. Asalamualaikum.